Welcome back everyone, Hero in his Head here. Now, on this channel I've talked about a number of things related to Kenshi 2, news, updates, things that I want to see, as well as theories about the future of the series. But one thing I have yet to cover are things that would let me down for Kenshi 2, things that I feel could potentially ruin my experience in Kenshi 2 should they be implemented. Now, do keep in mind that all of these things are purely my own opinion, and you are entitled to your own, but that does not mean I have to agree with you, just as you don't have to agree with me. So, without further ado, I bring to you all 5 things that I don't want to see in Kenshi 2. Number 1, we have over-immersive needs. Now, first off, I want to preface by saying I know a number of people who would enjoy this feature, and actually saw a bunch of people ask for this very thing during Chris Hunt's AMA on Reddit that I covered about a year ago in my Kenshi 2 What We Know So Far video. And thankfully, Chris seems to agree that adding in more needs like sleep, water, disease, and other similar concepts would only detract from the enjoyment that is Kenshi by adding increased micromanagement. And it honestly just adds increased difficulty to an already difficult game, and even more so would make adventuring overly complicated. I know I don't want to have to load my inventory with water and food and medicine on top of my gear to travel somewhere just to run out and die of starvation or dehydration. Being forced to turn around, or even worse, missing out on loot because I can't afford to drop my rations and supplies. Food in Kenshi as it is provides just the right amount of added preparation requirements to where I feel that it's still fun and immersive without overcomplicating the gameplay or restricting movement as well. It may just be me, but I really don't think adding additional needs and meters would do anything other than decrease the enjoyment of the game, and frankly I'm glad Chris agrees with me on this. Number 2, we have a full transition to ranged combat. Now, in one of my previous videos, I stated I wanted more focus on ranged combat and, things like a cover system and more engaging ranged weapon types. But don't let that convince you that I want a full transition to ranged combat, because I don't. Part of the magic of Kenshi is the dynamic and entertaining melee combat in which you can visibly see your character develop their skills and effectiveness, as well as creating a walking god capable of carving through legions of bandits with ease. And while I do want to see ranged combat take less of a backseat than it did in Kenshi 1, I don't want to see it take over as the primary weapon of choice, as I feel it would take what was once a dystopian post-apocalyptic sandbox and instead turn it into an open-world RTS. And it would pretty much rob Kenshi of its soul and what makes it unique and fun. Ranged combat is good, only ranged combat not so much. Number 3, easily defined lore. Now, this one actually makes my job harder, as currently most of Kenshi's lore is put together with context clues, reasonable assumptions, theories, in-game quotes, and other subtle clues that we have to put together and create a timeline for the world of Kenshi itself. And that is honestly one of my favorite parts. Kenshi is supposed to be this desolate, title-locked moon that has essentially survived 2 total collapses, and its history is shrouded in mystery and conjecture. And it's that mystery that has led so many people to become invested in the lore of this amazing game. We love putting together the forgotten and unexplained pieces of lore using our minds. And that open-ended nature where there is a lack of clearly defined lore allows for better role-playing. And better fan interaction too, as we're all given the opportunity to create what we feel is the story, and nobody's necessarily right or wrong. I know with the setting being a prequel at the end of the Second Empire, we're going to have some defined lore, more than there was in Kenshi 1, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the Second Empire already has the most written and easily obtainable lore out of any other period in Kenshi's history. And this means that we can exist in previously established lore without necessarily detracting from the mystery and intrigue of the unpublished and theoretical lore that we, the community, have put together. I'm good with expanding what we have, but I hope to keep the same level of contextual lore and environmental storytelling that we did have in Kenshi 1 as well. Number 4, quests. Now, this one is a no-brainer to me, but it's true regardless. Part of what makes Kenshi so unique and fun is that you're not special or the chosen one, and as such, there is no quests. It's really open-ended. Will you remain a beggar and a feeble bandit? where you become a drug lord, take down all the nations, commit genocide on all the races of Kenshi, take over the remains of Catlan's empire. It's all up to you how you reach your endgame. The emphasis being your endgame. I personally think the introduction of quests would kind of defeat that purpose, and it would turn an open world, open-ended game into more of a linear, progressive story that just wouldn't be Kenshi anymore. Suddenly you're moving through the ranks, earning titles and running errands, and don't get me wrong, you can do that in the first game, but those things aren't quests in Kenshi 1, they're optional things that you can do, and if you choose not to, it doesn't prevent you from reaching the quote endgame content, it just alters some of the details. Whereas if there was the introduction of linear questing systems, suddenly you need to do A, B, and C to reach the endgame, and that just isn't Kenshi to me. And last but not least, number 5, reliance on turrets. Now, some people like this one, some people don't. I actually do enjoy it to a point, but I think late game the reliance on turrets at your base or outpost kind of becomes a bit underwhelming. I mean, 6 to 8 multi-barreled auto-poons can pretty much take out an armada of enemies, and they won't even make it to your gate all the time. It kind of creates this weird counterbalance where you almost don't want to leave your base because you know you're totally safe behind those walls, and it halts progress, and to me, kind of turns raids into more of an inconvenience or even an ignorable event, which I don't really like. Makes my late game kind of boring, and it makes me feel like I over-prepared for a threat that will never come. Obviously, some things like mods can fix this, but we're talking about base game. I guess what my really overall point is that I hope Kenshi 2 has a system in place that prevents that over-reliance on turrets and forces a little bit more thought and strategy into your gameplay. Hopefully, I am right about my theory that boats and pirates are going to play a big role in Kenshi 2, and also my idea that a cover system might be introduced for ranged combat. It may not eliminate my grievance, but it will definitely change how we approach raids and defenses in Kenshi 2 and could honestly add to the experience without, again, making a reliance on turrets where things just become super easy in the late game if you have enough poons. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Enjoy your fix of Kenshi content. I'm still working on my UC history video. It's a little harder than the other two as there's less written history and more current events and relations and characters, but it's getting there. If you like the content, remember to subscribe, drop a comment, share your own things that you do and don't want in Kenshi 2, as I'd love to hear all about it. I try to be active in the comment section and respond to as many as I can, so go wild and, hopefully I'll respond. This has been Heroes Head, and I look forward to seeing you all real soon.